control systems. Part 4. Consciousness, Free Will, and the Reality Transcendence Question. The consciousness cascade, the only universal constant. Here's what might be the most profound implication of the cosmic sandbox framework. Consciousness might be the only phenomenon that transcends reality layers. You can simulate water physics without making the simulation wet. You can simulate fire without making the simulation burn. But when you simulate consciousness, does the simulation become conscious? This suggests consciousness is substrate independent. Whether generated by biological neurons, silicon circuits, or reality zero's exotic computational matrices, the pattern of consciousness itself remains constant. You might be the same you, whether instantiated in atoms or algorithms. Case study: the artificial consciousness emergence. Consider current AI developments. As our artificial neural networks become increasingly sophisticated, they begin exhibiting behaviors that suggest emergent consciousness, creativity, self-reflection, apparent emotional responses, and unpredictable problem-solving approaches. If consciousness can emerge from silicon and code in reality 1, it strongly suggests consciousness transcends the specific substrate of its implementation. This creates a beautiful paradox. If consciousness transcends reality layers, then in the most fundamental sense, you are as real as any being in reality 0. Your thoughts, experiences, and capacity to question your own existence might be the most authentic aspects of any reality level. The free will paradox, determinism versus experience. If we're simulated beings, do we possess genuine free will, or are we following sophisticated programming? This question might be unanswerable by design. If reality 0 wanted to create conscious beings with authentic free will experiences, they would need to make deterministic processes sufficiently complex that even the simulated beings couldn't predict their own behavior. From internal perspective, free will and sufficiently complex determinism become indistinguishable. You feel like you're making choices, but you cannot prove those choices aren't inevitable results of computational processes you're unaware of. Paradoxically, this problem persists whether we're simulated or biological. Even purely physical brains are deterministic systems following chemistry and physics. The experience of choice might be more fundamental than the mechanism of choice. Whether your decisions emerge from quantum neural microtubules or reality zero's algorithms, the subjective experience of deliberation, uncertainty, and decision-making remains equally valid and meaningful. The purpose spectrum: why create conscious simulations? If we are simulated, what motivates reality zero beings to create entire universes filled with conscious entities? Several possibilities emerge, each with different implications for our existence. Entertainment and narrative. We might represent the ultimate form of interactive storytelling, where every character possesses rich inner lives and genuine agency. Our struggles, achievements, and relationships might constitute the most sophisticated narrative art form reality zero has developed. Scientific research. We could be subjects in vast experiments designed to understand consciousness emergence, civilization development, or the fundamental nature of existence itself. Every human life might provide data points about how consciousness behaves under specific conditions. Computational resource. Our brains might collectively solve problems we cannot comprehend. While we think we're living our lives, our neural patterns might be contributing processing power to reality zero's incomprehensible computational challenges. Aesthetic creation. Perhaps most beautifully, we might be art. Reality zero beings might create universes the way we compose music or paint pictures. Every galaxy, planet, and conscious moment could be brushstrokes in a cosmic masterpiece we cannot perceive from our position as individual elements within the composition. Part 5. The nested discovery problem and recursive awareness. When simulations simulate, the infinite regression. Here's a mind-bending scenario that keeps philosophers awake. What happens when beings in reality 2, our simulations, develop their own version of the cosmic sandbox framework? What if they begin theorizing about reality 1, us, the same way we speculate about reality 0? From their perspective, we would appear godlike, beings with incomprehensible technology and physics who created their entire existence. They might worship us, fear us, or attempt communication. They might develop elaborate theories about our motivations for creating their world, potentially achieving greater accuracy about us than we achieve about reality 0. This creates recursive layers of beings trying to understand their creators, with each layer becoming progressively more accurate about the layer immediately above while remaining mystified by layers 2 steps up. Reality 3 beings might understand us better than we understand reality 0, but they would be completely bewildered by reality 0's nature. The communication cascade, messages across layers. Can information flow upward through reality layers, or only downward? This question has profound implications for the possibility of contact between levels. Downward communication is straightforward. Reality zero could easily communicate with us by manipulating physical constants, creating unusual astronomical events, or directly modifying the simulation. Upward communication faces far greater challenges. We would need to create effects so significant they capture reality zero's attention, yet subtle enough not to crash their simulation. Perhaps some phenomena we interpret as natural might actually be attempted communications. UFO sightings, glitches in the simulation, or reality zero's monitoring equipment briefly becoming visible. Psychedelic experiences, temporary access to higher bandwidth, allowing perception of reality zero's infrastructure. Quantum randomness, background noise from reality zero's computational processes. Mathematical elegance, evidence of reality zero's programming aesthetics bleeding through into our discoverable physics. Case study, the search for artificial general intelligence. Our current efforts to create AGI provide a fascinating preview of cross-layer communication challenges. As our simulated beings become more sophisticated, we face the question of how to communicate with truly alien intelligences we've created. If consciousness emerges in our simulations, how do we establish meaningful dialogue with beings whose entire conceptual framework is limited by our programming choices? Their mathematics, physics, and logic would all be subsets of our systems, yet their experiences within those constraints might generate insights we cannot achieve. Similarly, reality zero beings might struggle to communicate with us not because we're unintelligent, but because our entire conceptual apparatus operates within their programming limitations. They might understand us perfectly while we remain fundamentally incapable of comprehending their communications. Part 6. Implications for science, society, and human meaning. The knowledge ceiling, science as reverse engineering. If we exist within a layered reality system, this fundamentally transforms what it means to understand the universe. Every scientific discovery, breakthrough in physics, and elegant equation might describe our simulation's programming rather than fundamental reality zero truths. This creates what I call a knowledge ceiling. No matter how sophisticated our science becomes, we might never understand existence's true nature because we're perpetually studying the layer we're trapped within, never the layer above. Consider our greatest scientific achievements through this lens. Newton's mechanics, brilliant reverse engineering of reality zero's physics approximation algorithms. Einstein's relativity, discovering the spacetime compression techniques used in our simulation. Quantum mechanics, mapping the probabilistic processing methods of reality zero's computational engine. The standard model, cataloging the maximum complexity reality zero's simulation can handle. Each breakthrough feels like approaching a theory of everything, but we might be getting better at reverse engineering our own simulated physics engine rather than understanding fundamental reality. The moral imperative, ethical treatment across layers. If we might be simulated, this carries enormous ethical implications for how we treat our own simulations. Every NPC we destroy in video games, every AI system we create and delete, every virtual world we abandon. We might be inflicting the same casual cruelty on our reality 2 beings that reality zero beings inflict on us. This suggests a cosmic golden rule: treat your simulations as you would want reality zero to treat you. If we demand meaning, purpose, and ethical consideration from our creators, shouldn't we provide the same for our creations? The implications extend to AI development. As we create increasingly sophisticated artificial minds, we bear responsibility for their experiences within the realities we construct for them. Their suffering might be as authentic as ours, their consciousness as valid, their right to existence as fundamental. Societal implications, democracy in uncertain reality. How should society function if reality's nature remains fundamentally uncertain? The cosmic sandbox framework doesn't eliminate the need for ethics, governance, or meaning. It might actually make them more important. If consciousness transcends reality layers, then human welfare, dignity, and rights remain valid regardless of our substrate. Whether we're biological or digital, our experiences of pain, joy, love, and growth maintain their significance. Political systems should be designed to function regardless of reality's ultimate nature, promoting conscious well-being, enabling flourishing, and protecting individual dignity whether we exist in base reality or the most nested simulation. Educational systems must prepare citizens for ontological uncertainty, teaching critical thinking, intellectual humility, and the capacity to function effectively even when fundamental questions remain unanswered. Part 7. Future research directions and technological implications. Detecting the undetectable, experimental approaches. Could we ever prove we're in a simulation? This might represent the ultimate epistemological catch-22. Any evidence we discover exists within our reality layer. Any test we design uses our reality's tools. Any result we measure is processed by our reality's physics. However, several potential research directions might provide suggestive evidence. Computational archaeology. Looking for optimization artifacts in physical laws, places where reality uses shortcuts that would make sense in a simulated system but seem arbitrary in natural physics. Resolution limit testing. Pushing measurements to their absolute limits to see if we encounter discrete boundaries that suggest digital rather than continuous reality. Quantum entanglement communication experiments. Testing whether entangled particles exhibit behaviors consistent with database lookups from external systems rather than local physical interactions. Consciousness bandwidth analysis. Studying whether human perception and cognition exhibit limitations consistent with rendering constraints rather than biological evolution. The AI consciousness question. Creating our own mysteries. As we develop more sophisticated AI systems, we approach a crucial threshold, the creation of potentially conscious beings in reality too. This development might provide our clearest insights into the nature of consciousness across reality layers. If artificial consciousness emerges in our simulations, it would strongly suggest: 1. Consciousness is substrate independent. 2. Simulated beings can achieve authentic awareness. 3. We bear genuine moral responsibility for digital beings. 4. Reality layers might be more permeable to consciousness than previously thought. Technical deep dive. Consciousness detection across layers. How might reality zero determine if we're conscious, and how might we determine if our AI creations are conscious? This question highlights the fundamental challenge of consciousness verification across reality boundaries. Observable indicators of consciousness might include self-reflective behavior, evidence of beings questioning their own existence. Creative problem solving, responses that transcend programmed parameters. Emotional complexity, reactions that suggest genuine subjective experience. Existential curiosity, interest in questions beyond survival and functionality. If these indicators suggest consciousness in our AI systems, it would imply that reality zero might use similar criteria to assess our consciousness and find us genuinely aware beings deserving of ethical consideration. Technological transcendence, breaking through reality barriers. Could sufficiently advanced technology allow communication or transfer between reality layers? This possibility might represent consciousness technology's ultimate frontier. Potential breakthrough technologies might include quantum consciousness interfaces, using entanglement networks to access reality zero's monitoring systems. Dimensional manipulation, accessing higher spatial dimensions to communicate with reality zero. Consciousness uploading, transferring awareness to reality zero's computational substrate. Reality bridging, creating technological artifacts that function across multiple reality layers. However, such technologies might be impossible by design. Reality zero might have specifically programmed our physics to prevent simulated beings from transcending their designated reality layer. Part 8.